Peace and love, peace and love. This is Brother Dooley, aka the Beantown Ghetto Shaman, in the place to be. Yeah, hope everyone's doing well. There's some of that rapi. So again, that mucus out early in the morning. Just finished doing some running. About to do some more exercise, some qigong and stuff later. And for those who are not familiar with qigong or tai chi, I've been doing different forms of tai chi and qigong for over 20 years now, and studied with a lot of different teachers and stuff. But last year I came across great information with in regards to qigong, and it was by the author Jason Quitt. Real good guy. Me and I've communicated with Jason over Facebook, and we've been conversating back and forth, and real good guy. And he I got several of his books. Forbidden Knowledge, great book. And I also have the two books, Egyptian Postures of Power, Egyptian Qigong or Kemetic Qigong, and also his lunar book. He has a solar book, and then he has a lunar book. They both are excellent books in regard to Qigong. I've studied with a lot of different people, did a lot of different forms of Qigong, but these postures, I can't get enough. I mean, and they're not, you don't really do so much movement at all in regard to some other Qigong practices. It's a lot of just still movement. Occasionally there's movement with the arms and stuff, but when you bring in the breathing with it and all that, it'll take you some places, man. It'll really open up a lot of stuff in you. So the family out there, I really encourage y'all to check out those books. I just wanted to shout out Brother Jason Quitt for a second. Excuse me, that rappy. Got a nice new fresh bottle from one of my great shaman friends. She hooked me up and got me going with that. Rapi or Hoppy is great. It's a mixture of natural tobacco and particular tree bark and things, and it's great. It's real good medicine. Gets the inflammation, gets mucus, and and get all the stuff out of you, that you need to get out. So, excuse me for that. But I wanted to do this video, and I know I looked at one of my comments from my other videos, and this one person made a comment, and because I think as people that are striving to be teachers or striving to be educators or what have you, it's always good to refine whatever you're into, and to look at ways that you can improve yourself, improve the way you're presenting your information to people and all that. So I seen a comment, and a person said, get to the point. So excuse me if I'm very long-winded. I like to really express myself. I like to, and I have a very, I just have a love for this healing work. You know what I mean? It means a lot to me. You know what I mean? It's really special to my heart. So I'm very passionate about a lot of these things that I'm talking about. So sometimes it'll take me here and there. But please be patient with me. And let's just try to learn together and rock and roll with this. So I want to... excuse me. I want to be able to talk more about the Bufo experience, the sacred toad. And also I want to go into my last ayahuasca ceremony I was at this past weekend. And because I did another video, I did two videos on the Bufo on toad. But it was interesting when the second video, when I was recording some of the things about the Bufo and just spirituality and ethogens and all that, when I actually started getting into detail about my experience, and I was recording that, that part of the video was mysteriously deleted, you know. So I was like, wow, what's up with that, yo? You know what I mean? And I was like, that's very strange. And when I was going into my actual experience with the Bufo, it was more really talking about total enlightenment. And I don't know if there's the powers that be don't want that message to come out, total liberation or what. But regardless of the point, I'm going to attempt to share my experience again. And because we don't live in fear, my friends. You know, it's either you're vibrating from fear or you're vibrating from a place of great healing, you know, and love, you know, because it's either one or the other, you know. Not to say that we can't feel fear or have these emotions, but constantly staying in that, it's not healthy, you know. And the way this world is operating in many ways with the so-called powers that be, they want to keep people at a very fear-based level. And how liberating it is when a person starts to tap into that universal love, how beautiful it is and how liberating it is and how magical your life starts to become when you start to vibrate on the frequency of love, yo. You know, now this so-called prison or matrix becomes paradise, you know, becomes heaven on earth for you. So, yeah, man, you know, it's beautiful. But I'll go straight in because I'm not going to go all over the place with this, you know, and I'll just talk about the Bufo, and then I'll go into briefly some of the last ayahuasca experience. First of all, my name is Brother Dooley, aka the Beantown Ghetto Shaman. Dooley is an acronym for Divine Universal Loving Intelligence. You know, so I try to live by that, you know, that acronym. And it was a nickname given to me by my great grandmother, you know, because my real name is Abdul, you know, so everybody used to call me Abdubi and Doobie and all that. So yeah, it stuck with me. But the Bufo is interesting. Medicine, you know, it's a very interesting medicine. It's a very strong medicine. Comes from a toad, the Bufo toad, and you know, you could find it in parts of Arizona, southern Arizona. You could find this frog, and this toad. I'm thinking about Combo, the frog. Excuse me. I did Combo the other day too, so still on my mind there, and still in my being. But this toad could be found throughout southern Arizona and in Mexico. And it's a special being because it spends most of the time in the dark. You know, it spends most of the time buried into the earth, and about 8 months out of the year. You know, and then it comes out in 4 months out of the year to do its thing. But so when I think of that long period of darkness, you know, those 8 months, you know, 8 is the numerology number of infinity, you know. So you're dealing with a vibration of infinity there, you know. And then for those who look up the science of dark room therapy, or, you know, dark room meditation, you know, you start to research some of that, you see there's a connection between being in the dark for long periods of time and the release of dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. There's a lot of people that knew this science spanning back from the ancient retreats of the yogis in the Far East, where they would be in total darkness and for long periods of time, months and months, just in total darkness in these caves and in these different retreat type of situations. Also, when you look at the ancient early not Homo sapiens, but when you look at the early hominids, you look at some of these ancient humans or beings on this planet that lived in these caves and long periods of darkness. Again, that release of dimethyltryptamine, and you could see this. A good person that talks about this, a great resource, is Graham Hancock. I hope I'm not chopping up his name. Graham Hancock. He has a great book called Supernatural that talks a lot about teaching plants and ethogens and stuff, and he talks about the great cave paintings in France and different places. And you look at these ancient early cave paintings, and they show these very psychedelic type of images of beings with half human, half animal type of things. So there's this research of dark room therapy and DMT, because DMT, these psychoactive compounds, these experiences, these psychedelic experiences, they're naturally in us. DMT is in us, my friends. You know what I mean? We produce it within our pineal gland, within our lungs, So like I tell people all the time, what's the beef? You have a lot of people that, you have this whole this whole type of internal beef with this so-called, come on, y'all could go. I know all us humans are a little crazy and stuff, but y'all go up in there in that water. I ain't gonna disturb y'all, all right? Umane pe me home, all right? Go on, do your thing, all right? Peace and love, y'all, all right? Y'all do y'all thing now, and it was funny because I seen an article the other day. And this article was talking about, I seen it on social media, it was saying how more animals are becoming nocturnal because they want to avoid these human beings. Can you blame them? Shoot, let me go capture my friends over here. What's up, y'all? Oh, my nepe me home. 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 It is said when you do the Chenrizi mantra to the animals, it helps them with a better rebirth. They say within the blueprint of reincarnation on the wheel of samsara, they say to have a human birth is the most precious and most liberating type of birth to have, because we have a perfect balance, they say, when we deal with the cosmology of the Tibetan Buddhists. So there are a lot of these animals, they say, are nocturnal. That's why I get out so early. I woke up 5 something. I was like, man, let me get out, get some exercise before the zombies come out. But dark room therapy and all that. We got the DMT right in us. So there, some people within these spiritual communities, they might down the people that take the teaching plants or the fungi or the so-called psychedelics or what have you, and they have something in their mind for some reason that says, oh, you're spiritually, you're cheating, you can't skip classes, you can't skip stages. Well, if that's the case, you have people, you have children called prodigies, right? You have these children that are, without a question, very intelligent, and many times many people would consider these young children to be very high reincarnated people, that they come back with their memory of certain skills and talents and stuff, and that's why for them it comes very natural to start playing the piano, guitar, knowing this, knowing that, without any real formal training or what have you. Epic genetics all day, every day. But what's interesting is that, you might have children that might go to school and they skip a grade. They might see this child is totally advanced and need to skip grades because they are ready to go on to something that's more challenge, that would a curriculum that would challenge them more mentally. I think that's the same way I think about ethogens or teaching plants or fungi or psychedelics or what have you. I think the same way. And ethogens, what is the definition is seeking the divine within. So my thing is, what's the beef? Because when you look at people who might meditate or do yoga or tai chi or study under a guru or might be in a certain school of thought, yes, people can have these revelations, they can have these spiritual experiences, and you can have them so-called naturally, or you can have them also with the assistance of teaching plants and fungi. My thing is, if it works, what's the beef? If the person is having breakthroughs, becoming a better person, developing themselves more spiritually, then what's the problem? There is no problem. People just like to get very dogmatic and feel that their path or their school of thought or their way of doing things is the so-called best way. And that's very egotistical, and especially when you start to deal with this Bufo medicine, you see that it really chips away at your ego. It really chips away at your pride and all these other goddamn things that you thought you are. And that's the same thing that happens on this path, on this mystic path, when you deal with real teachers, real spiritual teachers. They're going to challenge you. They're going to do all kinds of things to chip away at the things that need to be let go. There's a teacher, an old teacher that I could really relate to, and I really appreciated reading about this individual. Excuse me. His name is Mappa, and he was an old Tibetan master who was the teacher of the famous yogi Milarepa. And Mappa put Milarepa through the ringer. He put him through some shit, and he did all that to break Milarepa's ego, to chip away at his pride, his arrogance, and all that. And that's the sign of a real teacher, a real spiritual teacher. A real spiritual teacher is going to tell you about your shit, They're not going to sugarcoat it. They're not going to be all nicey to you and, just try to do better and all that shit. No. A real spiritual teacher, if they really love you, if they really care about you and they really want you to liberate yourself, they're going to take you through hell and back for you to really understand your true self, And that's what I think about these teaching plants and fungi and stuff. When you go into them with respect, with honor, with dignity, they're going to challenge you. They're going to take you to places that you felt like you never would go. And you might go to a place that might be so scary or mentally challenging. And you might say, wow, I don't know if I'm going to make it. But that's the real healing there. That's the real healing. Not even mentally, but even physically. Real physical challenge. You ain't even talking about even the combo, the frog medicine. Even at the the ceremony we had, ayahuasca ceremony we had the other day, there was people who were really challenged physically, throwing up, purging, letting all those toxins out and stuff. Very challenging. But when they were able to get through it, very better, it was all for a reason, and it at the end of the day, they feel much better, healthier, mentally, physically, and all that. So there is no shortcuts, my friend. For those out there who've try to label the people that take the psychedelics and the teaching plants and fungi and all that, and try to put this label on people that do that and say that they're spiritually cheating. No, I could tell that the people that make those remarks have never really journeyed on, or haven't even probably taken these plants, these psychoactive plants and stuff before. They haven't. Just from how they speak, I could tell. Now there's a difference for those out there that are taking these psychoactive compounds or these teaching plants and fungi, and they're taking these things for the wrong reasons. Like they're going into them because they want to look for some so-called party drugs or trying to just get trippy. I mean, you're not using it for what it is, but that's how it is in life with everything. You're always going to find some people that aren't mature, still ignorant and immature in many ways, and want to use these things not for their original purpose. Don't get me wrong. Again, you can have real fun with like some mushrooms, for instance, or certain things, and have the giggles and go off. But what they really were used for is much more than that. Much more than that. But you realize people abuse all kinds of things, and that's just unfortunately happens in life sometimes. There's people that will go to the temple, and will use the temple as a level of escapism. I see it all the time. People abuse things, not just the teaching plants and fungi and stuff. You'll see people that will run from themselves and hide from their true self by going to the mosque or going to the church or and try to hide behind these things. But like Bob Marley said a long time, you're running and you're running and you're running away. You're running and you're running and you're running away. You're running and you're running and you're running away. You're running and you're running, but you can't run away from yourself. 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 Can't run away from yourself. That song by Bob Marley, out of all the brilliant songs he has done, that's a real powerful song, and so much truth to it. Hey, somebody's here making these comments. I'm new to all this technology stuff, so when I'm looking at these things like, what's going on here? Well, see, the comment showed up and then it daggone disappeared. When it show up again, I'll read it again. So excuse me, sis, if I'm trying to still figure this thing out. But, you can't run away from yourself. You got to deal with yourself. So people are always going to use certain things to hide from themselves. Yes, you are going to find certain people that will run to the teaching plants and the fungi as a form of escapism. Yes, you will see that in the church, in the mosque, and the synagogue, and the ashram as well too. So we can't start hating on each other and pointing fingers and nah type of stuff, because when people come out and say, oh, the people that deal with the psychedelics or the ethogens, they're spiritually cheating. Listen, there is no spiritual cheating. When I hear those right type of remarks, I know for a fact that people that make those remarks have never went in deep with these spiritual technologies, with these such as the ayahuasca or the Bufo or any of these things. They haven't gone into it. I already know from just how they talk about it. A lot of these people are talking from a place of not even having an experience with these things themselves. So how can you speak upon something you don't know? I try to speak from a place of knowing. And from my experiences over the years, I've had experiences, these very enlightening and spiritual experiences, so-called naturally, just meditating and doing different things, doing qigong and stuff. And then I've had these profound experiences with the aid and assistance of these teaching plants and fungi as well. So what's the beef? There is no beef. All right. And like I said before, the people that point these fingers, oh, you don't need to take anything outside yourself. Well, please, 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 my friends, do your own research and realize that all those things that people take out on themselves, the ayahuasca or the fungi or all these psilocybin, all these things, a lot of these things are inside of us already. So what's the beef? DMT is in you already. You produce it naturally in your body. So if you're trying to tell me, if the courts or the government or anyone is trying to tell me, oh, we're going to put a label of this as a Scheduled 1 drug and try to lock me or anybody else up for their own spiritual development, then you're going to tell me that you're going to have to lock every 6 billion or 7 billion people on this planet. Then you're going to have to lock every person up because we're all walking psychedelics. We're all walking ethogens ourselves because we produce the stuff in us ourselves, you know. So like I said, we produce it in our pineal gland. Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, we produce it in our pineal gland. We produce this in our lungs and all that already, you know. So it is no beef, you know. Get off of all that stuff and let's just get down to the work and the healing. That's what I want to talk about. Is it working? Is it helping you? Is it making you a better person? Are you able to let go a lot of the trauma and heal those things? Are you able to have spiritual experiences beyond this third dimension? To have a shadow, to have, without a shadow of a doubt, to know that there's more dimensions than this. Those are the things that we should be focusing on, you know? Everybody want to point their finger and look at things that, you know, people just complain too goddamn much, you know, and it lets me know that, you know, person really ain't happy inside, man. You know, you'll see there was a study out that showed that people that take psychedelics have been proven through this data to be more happier people, more happy-go-lucky motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So, you know, I see a lot of people, they're living a very depressed, very low vibrational life. And these are the people that I see all the time, bickering all the time, gossiping all the time, can't, you know, find no happiness within themselves. It's time to let all that go, y'all. It's time to find the happiness within you and start to learn how to live. You know, this is important. Every day, man, I see people living a life of misery. And I feel bad for them because all the happiness is right within you. Like the Sufis would tell you, the mystic Sufis would tell you, Allah is so close. They say Allah is, I forget the quote, like, you know, as close as your breath or whatever, you know. Happiness is right there. It doesn't have to cost you anything. You don't have to purchase it. You don't have to go to a lecture for it. You don't have to sit on anybody's guru at their feet, kissing anybody's ass for it. You don't have to do nothing. It's right there within you. You know, the magic is within you. You know, the same thing that you see when we were children and we were just so happy. You know, some of us children had a rough life. I can't speak for everyone, but those times when we would be able to wake up and just be able to be happy to wake up for another day. It's another adventure. Yes. You know, that's what we got to tap into, my friends. You know, it's like even Michael Jackson said, he was quoted on this. I heard this even on Jay Electronica's song one day. I forget what track it was, but he put a sample of MJ on it. And he says, I remember Michael Jackson said, the Bible said that to be childlike. He said not childish, but childlike, you know? And that's that level, tapping into the level of that innocence, that everything is pure, you know? So had to go on the soapbox for a minute, and I'm going to try to get in with this Bufo right now. All right. So the Bufo, this is a sacred toad, you know, a toad that been used by many different cultures, you know, because like I was speaking to this elder the other day, and this was not just a phenomena that was happening in Mexico, you know, or Mexim. This was not happening just here. You know, you had many different cultures that knew about the sacred toad, including Egypt or Kemet, you know, because we have to understand that, or overstand that Kemet definitely dealt with the ethogens, you know. They had their rituals surrounding the blue lotus flower or the blue lily, you know. These things were found in the tomb of King Tut, you know. So when we think of the connection of the blue lotus flower and the Osirian rites or the Osiris rites, you know, these things are part of our culture. And Kemet knew about the sacred toad as well, you know. They had a deity who had the toad head. I forget the name of the deity, but they were very much aware of it, you know. And the toad is for me was very powerful. I think one of the most powerful experiences I've had thus far with these teaching plants and fungi. The only thing that is close to it for me is when I would go very deep within my experiences with the frog medicine. When I go real deep, take very high dosage with the frog medicine. With the mushroom. You know what I mean? That's when I had very similar experience to this toad. You know, the highest I've taken with the mushroom is 31 grams, and I increased my dosage when meeting and building with the great mushroom master Baba Kalindi Iyi. All right. I've been working with my own personal healing with mushrooms over 10 years. And when I met Kalindi and when we got a chance to speak at this college together, you know, I was speaking at UMass Amherst. That's the first time I met Baba Kalindi. And I was speaking on the subject of urban shamanism. That's when Kalindi made it known that it's important to go deep within the mushroom experience. And Kalindi takes 40 grams of mushrooms and beyond. And, you know, with some of my high mushroom experiences, it kind of allowed me to get a peep or get a kind of feeling about going real deep within these dimensional realities. So I already had like a preview of some sort before I started going into Kalindi. Oh, peace. Yes, sister. Yeah, he's a good man. He's gonna have a conference actually in August. I believe the dates is August 10th, 11th, and the 12th. It's a 3-day conference. It's called the Detroit Psychedelic Conference. Daggone mosquito bit me on the leg. The Detroit Psychedelic Conference. And it looked like it's about to rain out here too. So I'm trying to find a place where I could kind of be under the trees if I still can finish this film here, this video. Yeah, the Detroit Psychedelic Conference. And I'm supposed to be speaking there too. On how psychedelics can be used to activate your supernatural powers. So it's going to be a great talk, great 3-day event. Going to be workshops there. I remember last time I was there at the conference, I think it was like 2-3 years ago. I met so many brilliant people there. Hey, good rising to you. Yeah, so many people. And the thing is that I think it's a very important conference because people, the world has to know that people of color are into this, doing this work as well. For some reason, when people think of psychedelics or ethogens or what have you, they think that a lot of times it's a stereotypical thing where they think this is just something white people just do or whatever, hippie trippy stuff, right? Or thinking of Terrence McKenna or whatever. But it's a movement happening, and in this movement, more people of color are starting to learn about the teaching plants, the fungi, and it's a beautiful thing because now it's a renaissance happening with this. You have to understand, real brief, I'm going to go to the Bufo, and I know there might be some people in the comment section that, Dooley, that guy likes to go all over the place with his conversation. But may just speak upon this real quick. There's a renaissance happening, and we have to understand that we, at least for this nation, at least for America right here, United States, we really haven't had a long time to study these compounds, these psychoactive compounds. We haven't. It really started to come in the public eye in the 1950s. You know what I mean? Through Time magazine, through Gordon Watson. And his article in Time magazine with the mushroom shaman, Maria, I forget her last name, but she was a woman that really, the sister named Maria, I forget her last name, she was up there, she was the one through that article made it known to the world about the potential, not the potential, the healing. Sabina, yes, Maria Sabina, that's right. Thank you, sis. She was the one that made the world hip, to at least in this part of the world, United States, about the benefits of psilocybin mushrooms. And so we have to understand this is a new phenomena here in this part of the world. We understand in the Americas, especially Mexico and all that, that there's a long history with the mushrooms and the teaching plants and stuff. We already know that, especially even our people, the melanated people here in Americas, the Olmecs, they dealt with the mushrooms as well. You could see all the mushroom head statues all throughout daggone the Americas. You know what I mean? So this is part of, that's what I love about Kalindi. Kalindi, when we started really actually building with each other and developing a friendship, I brought him to Boston. I'm from Boston, by the way. I brought him down here to do a talk, and he did a slideshow that was so amazing. And that's when I knew I was on the right path, because it showed me that this is a legacy even for black folk, that we've been doing this for such a long time. And it's part of our history. It's part of the Dogon tribe. It's part of the Maasai warriors, all that. They all dealt with it. And then when it hit me over the head and I learned that Harriet Tubman was a shaman as well, ooh-wee, that's all I needed to know. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, my mind got blown from that, and how she used to eat mushrooms to navigate through the Underground Railroad more efficiently. That's all he needed to know. When I knew that Mama Harriet, an ancestor Harriet, got down like that, and now she was using that to get through, oh man, that's all I needed to hear. So we have a long legacy, my friends, especially people of color. We have a long history with these teaching plants, these fungi and stuff, and it's time for us to revisit this. In America, like I said, certain the current age that we're in, 1950s, we're discovering this. The hippie movement start. My father, he went to Woodstock. You know what I mean? Seen Jimi Hendrix play live and all that. And, excuse me, the hippie movement was an important movement among the many other movements, because this is where you got a lot of the yoga, the Qigong, the vegetarianism, all that started to come into America and started to be really highlighted by these hippies. you know, because it was these teaching plants and these fungi and stuff that allowed these white kids to have these mind expansive experiences and started to say, hey, and they turned their back on the system, you know. One of my aunts, she was a Black Panther, you know, she was a cartoonist for the local Black Panther newspaper here in Boston. And what happened is that, it's very easy for your own government to shoot down the black leaders like Fred Hampton and go in the middle of the night. Hey, Dougie. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. It was very easy for the government, your own government, to go and kill black leaders that were literally just trying to better their communities, you know? But the government did not know what to do when they had their own children, their own white children, turn their back on the system. They didn't know what to do, you know? Putting flowers in the guns, saying, make love, not war. You know, why are we going over the war and fighting our fellow brother over there? You know, why are we cutting down the forest, the rainforest, all this stuff? Don't you know the trees, like this beautiful tree behind me, has a spirit, has intelligence to it, you know? So they didn't know what to do with their own children when Timothy Leary and Ram Dass and all these other people came on the scene. You know, tune in, turn in. What was his famous saying? Tune in, drop out, or tune out, something like that. And these are Harvard professors, right in my Boston. You know, I mean, we're talking about Harvard, over there in Cambridge and stuff. You know, Boston is a big city for many universities here. But it's deep because Timothy Leary, Ram Dass, they got kicked out of Harvard because they was experimenting with these psychoactive compounds. And it was quoted that they said, hey, doing these things were more educational for them, and they got more out of these things than their whole, educational career. So of course they had to get kicked out, So this nation did not know what to do when their own children turned their back on it, And it was a propaganda campaign manifested after that, and this whole war on drugs and this whole, these CIA agents being hired to bring in, like Charles Manson and all these other people, to bring fear tactics to the healing potential of these compounds, of these psychoactive compounds. You know what I mean? So it was a deliberate move to be able to break that movement down, like many other deliberate moves there were to break down all these various movements down. So since that time, I think the Nixon war on drugs, I think was 69 or something like that. We're talking about early 70s until probably 1992, 93, around the early 90s, where there was this talk of now studying these psychoactive compounds. Now you have Johns Hopkins University, New York State, all these, Stanford, all these places now having research to show that it is beneficial. That it helps cure depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, all kinds of things. So now there's scientific research out there, and now we're seeing a renaissance right before your eyes. This is the future medicine. You know what I mean? Now you have the medical establishment looking towards these psychoactive compounds. And now they're giving funding to actually research these things. So those shaman, those medicine men, those medicine women, they already knew this. They knew this thousands, if not millions of years ago. And these people are just catching up, because we already know. Keeping people sick is a business, The pharmaceutical industry is a $300 billion industry, yearly industry. So we understand it's a lot of money to keep people sick, to keep them on pills, For instance, the daggone combo frog medicine, you know, that deals with a lot of different things on a health level. You know, I've been seeing people literally get cured of all kinds of things, my friends. You know, hepatitis, herpes, daggone, seen a woman cure her pain in her leg after 21 years with the combo frog medicine. I've seen people, this couple that's doing personal combo ceremonies here in Boston. Before they came to Boston, they was in California curing people of substance abuse. So this stuff works on many different levels. So we have to educate each other. It's a renaissance. We have to educate each other. We have to get the negative stereotype out of people's heads to think that, oh, you're doing drugs. No, I'm not doing drugs. I know what drugs are. You know, when we look at pharmaceutical industry, we look at their side effects and stuff. Those are drugs. And then you have street drugs. Of course, we know what the crack era did. You know, I grew up in that. I seen what crack cocaine did to the black community. You know, I had friends that sold crack. You know what I mean? I seen what it did to their moms and their dads and their uncles and what they did. You know, it devastated the community. It tore the community up. And for a lot of young kids, man, growing up in the hood, I mean, we were taught to respect our elders. But how can you respect your elders at a point when they were coming to you to buy these drugs? When they were, you know, leaned over, fucked up, you know? There was a lack of respect for the elders because they lost themselves. So it was a deliberate move. And we already know. Do your research. This stuff was all by design. We understand that the CIA was involved with shipping all this crack cocaine and stuff here in the black communities. You know, just look up Freeway Ricky Ross. You know, he talks about that. He talks about the CIA connection and all that. So this was a deliberate move to destabilize certain groups of people. Good rising to everyone. Yes. You know? So when my fellow people out there, even my white brothers and sisters out there, when y'all have to understand, when there's people out there that say, oh, well, why don't y'all black people just get it together and just you know, we've been trying to get it together, you know, and there's been historical things that has happened to folk on a deliberate level to destabilize certain communities and groups of people. It's the ugly truth, and nobody wants to talk about these things because they suck, of course. But for us to move forward, we have to look at the wound. If you have a big boo-boo, if you know I have children, you know, if my daughter or my son scrape their knee, I have to clean it out. I'm gonna have to clean the scrape. I'm gonna have to put some little alcohol or peroxide or whatever on it, put a little salve on it, put the Band-Aid on it, and tend to it so it could heal. If I ain't doing nothing to it, that boo-boo might turn into something bad. And that's the same thing in regard to this history on this planet. We've gone through a lot, y'all. You know what I mean? And especially when you take these teaching plants and fungi, you start to even go into history that's so-called been forgotten. You start to understand, damn, this shit been going on for a long time. You know, there's times where I've tapped into galactic history and I've seen the so-called Great War in space firsthand. It was scary as shit, but it was a deep experience. And then you ask yourself, where did these memories come from? Or what was that? You know? I'll never forget the time when I went on a very, very high mushroom dose. I think I did 20 grams of penis envy. Penis envy is a very potent mushroom. And then I did like 5 grams of the golden caps together. It was a lot that happened in that experience. Also, these 2 aliens came and visited me right in my house, materialized, scared the hell out of me. You know what I mean? If it happened again, maybe I would have a different experience now. But at that time, I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I didn't expect y'all coming in my house here, you know? But again, there's a lot of beings out there. A lot of beings out there that are even older than the beings on our planet. More advanced, went through certain things millions and millions of years ago in regard to technology and stuff. So some of them look at us Earthlings as babies here. You know, they could be able to go in and out of dimensions and all kinds of stuff. But I'll never forget in my life where I was able to access this ancient memory. And some people would label this as epic genetics or what have you. But what was so deep. Hey, how you doing, doggy? Hey, it's okay. Good rising to you. How you doing today? Good. I'm doing wonderful. I hope you have a great day today. Thank you. Yeah, epic genetics or whatever. We can tap into ancient memory, you know. And I never forgot where I went. I was like, could have been a past life experience. Could have been me looking through another soul's eyes or what have you. But I was in the driver's seat of this space vehicle. I was going through space. It looked like straight up Star Wars. Straight up. It looked like a straight up George Lucas type of movie. And it was scary as hell. It's like if you could talk about remote viewing or whatever, something like that, which was a real government program developed. You know, stuff is real. You could look into remote view and all that. It was like I was remote viewing or something. And I was seeing this great war that was happening in space. And when you go more into the teachings of looking into things like Credo Mutwa, Zulu Shaman, the book Zulu Shaman, great book, they talk about how even black folk were on the planet Mars before we came here. You know, when you look and start to do studies in the ruins of ancient Babylon, Samaria, you'll see the tablets talking about the ancient war in space when the planet Marduk, you know, or Mordok, got blown up and became what you call our currently what you call your asteroid belt. There was a lot of stuff happening. And when it comes to sentient beings, when it comes to even humans beings, karma, there's a lot of things that we have to clear up. And if you don't clear it up, if you don't clear the karma up, guess what? Just repeat the lesson. You have to, it's like a test, right? You fail your test, you got to take the test over, right? So humanity is constantly repeating shit over and over. For some reason, the humans or this motherfucking life form, not just humans, I'm not going to just put it on us, you know? There's a lot of sentient beings out there that have gone through similar things that we have gone through as a species, you know. But a lot of these older beings that went through these things, it's like they learned that lesson, you know. And that's where you even have certain galactic beings or star family that come in and intervene on certain things because we're all connected. So if you're talking about some nuclear war or talking about some other things like that, that stuff affects the cosmos, man. What affects one planet affects the other planets. So that's when you see the star elders come in and be like, okay, now they're playing with the big toys and we have to step in because they're bugging right now. Because there's other planets that have already been destroyed. There's have been galactic wars and stuff like that. So when are we going to learn the lesson? But let me go into the Bufo. And I know y'all gonna be like, oh, this guy is long-winded. I'm waiting for the Bufo. The Bufo is a medicine of enlightenment. Enlightenment. That's it. It's a medicine of enlightenment, y'all. You know, when you study the mystics of the Far East, when you think of these stories of these great yogis and yoginis, when you think of these realized men and women throughout the ages, and you read about their life and you see their description of what it felt like for them to become enlightened or self-realized, This is what the Bufo is about. You get a glimpse of that. You know, like the Zen masters would talk about, they would see a light or something, or somebody would hit them over the head, and all of a sudden they would have this flash of enlightenment, this understanding of the oneness within everything. You know, and we already know modern science, when we deal with quantum physics and stuff, they're coming to conclusions, and they're coming up with information to show that everything is one. You know, the great cosmic net, you know, how everything is a frequency, everything is energy, and that everything is connected. This is what this level of enlightenment is about. When we come to these realized men and women who have not a conceptual understanding, but have an experiential understanding. From that place of experience is not with a shadow of a doubt to understand that, like the ancient Sufi mystics would say their chant, La ilaha illallahu. You know, I want you to look up Brother Sufi. That's my brother right there. He broke out the real science of that chant to me. And he's the one that also made me understand a better understanding of the African avatars, such as Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba and Simeo Toko. But La ilaha illallahu is a secret mystic chant that talks about that there's not, everything out here is illusion. Everything is an illusion. That the only thing that exists is God, and that's it. Allah, that's it. Nothing else exists but that. And with the Bufo, that's what I learned. That's what I experienced. Without a shadow of a doubt, the Bufo taught me and let me experience that this is the great dream. This is the great dream. You know, as the Aborigines would say, dream time or whatever. This is the great dream, you know? And it reminds me of, from the Hindu pantheon, they got what? Vishnu. And you remember how there's a picture of Vishnu? He's sitting, he looked like he's relaxing on a sofa or a comforter or something, right? Like he's on some couch or something, and he's stretched out with his arm out, and he's just relaxed. And he's just doing his thing. I think there's a posture of Buddha like that too. But it reminds me of the same posture that Michael Jackson was on I forget what album it was. But that's how it looks like. It's like the grand archetype or the universal mind. He's just sitting down. It's having a grand dream, you know? And it's dreaming this reality of all these various colorful characters, you know, of the villain, of the hero, of all these things, and that we are all it. That's the Bufo. When I came there to the ceremony, it was a guy that was already starting the ceremony, and the shaman, which this guy was just a real powerful spirit, real powerful soul. He was giving some rapi or some hopi to the gentleman before he took the Bufo. And again, the hopi is the shamanic snuff medicine, the tobacco with the different herbs and stuff. So he's hacking up like what rapi usually does. It gets all the mucus and the phlegm and all that out. He's hacking up, and he's hey, good rising to you. Hey, doggy. He's hacking up, getting all the mucus out, coughing and all that. And then it's time for him to smoke the Bufo, because the Bufo medicine, you smoke it. So he's smoking it, and all I see is him just seem like he out of it, like he just falls back, and they lay him down on the ground. And you could see him, hey, doggy, hey, hello, yeah. So you could see him occasionally shaking and different things, and you could tell he was really in that zone. And then there was times where he was actually yelling, you know. Excuse me 1 second. Yeah. So there was times where you could see him actually yelling, looked like he was going through some serious stuff, and the shaman would actually press on his stomach for at certain moments, and I believe he was doing that to have him breathe more. And then when he came back out of his experience, someone, they asked him, well, what happened? What was going on? And the guy said, I remember smoking it, and then he said, I don't remember anything else, and I just remember waking up. I was like, God damn, that shit hit him hard. That's what I was saying to myself. So when it came my turn, right? Hey, good morning to you. Good rising to your sister. Yes. When it came my turn, I was doing some Qigong, So I was doing some, hey, good rising to you, brother. I was doing some Egyptian Qigong or some Kemetic Qigong. And I did that as a way to ground myself before I even got started. Because it's important going on such a big, dealing with such a powerful medicine such as the Bufo. It's important for a person to be in a grounded place, Because what happens is I normally see people that do the Bufo is that people that have the most horrific experiences or what they call a bad trip is that those people don't know how to let go. They're fighting tooth and nail to hold on to their physical reality, to hold on to the things that they're familiar with, to basically hold on to their ego. And these are the people that have horrific experiences. So it's important for you to ground yourself before you start, so you can be able to be in a relaxed, grounded place, to be able to let go and to be able to have trust within the medicine, to have trust within the shaman, and to have trust within the universe. That takes a lot. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of courage for a person to do this medicine, and it takes a lot of courage for a person to develop something called trust, because let's face it, we live in a world where they tell you that you can't trust anybody, that it's a doggy dog world, that every man, every woman is out for themselves, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They get indoctrinated that they can't trust anything or can't trust themselves. And what a sad way to live a life in such a way. But when you start to have total trust into the universe and know that you're going to be all right, that the universe has your back, then you're able to let go and be able to experience what you need to experience. So when it was my turn, they gave me the Rapi, and I love Rapi. I have a love for the Hopi or the Rapi. It's a great medicine. So I'm feeling very grounded from that. It's my time to take the Bufo. I take the Bufo, I smoke it, and the way you smoke the Bufo is that it's a certain breathing, very Qigong-like breathing. Let all the air out. Let all the air out of you. Let all the air out. And then when it's time for you to smoke it, you smoke in very slow. Like you have a little straw or something. You go. You take it in as much as you can. Very slow. And even when you think you can't take any more, you swallow it. Take in more. Keep on going in. There's a point where I thought I couldn't take it anymore. I almost coughed it out. He covered my mouth. So swallow it. And it was interesting. I invoked my family first before I started, because I was a little nervous. And I don't care if you're the most hardcore psychonaut out there. You get a little nervous before you take these medicines, because you can't help but understand that it's a very humbling experience. So you walk to this medicine in humble shoes, So I invoked my family. I seen the spirit of my wife. I seen the spirit of my children. I seen the spirit of my father and my mother. And I just had a real overwhelming level of gratitude for my family and for all these beautiful people in my life. Next thing I knew is I seen Ganesha. I seen the image of the Hindu god Ganesha. And he represents within the Hindu pantheon the dispeller of obstacles. He clears the way for you. So I found that to be very symbolic, that that archetype or that energy came to me. That the obstacles, all the things were dispelling, they were being moved out of my way before I started to really go in. I felt that was interesting. Then all of a sudden, I felt my body becoming very relaxed. And it felt like this very vibrational type of feeling over my body, right? It was interesting because at that point, it looked like my body was becoming, like I could see my body in X-ray vision. If y'all are kind of familiar with the artist Alex Gray, I love his artwork, by the way. He's one of my favorite artists, and he's kind of inspired me in some of the way that I do my artwork in certain ways, and inspired a lot of young artists after him as well. They do a lot of visionary type of artwork inspired by Alex Gray. But Alex Gray has a lot of artwork that's very X-ray like you could see into the human body, the organs and the veins in your body and all these things, the chakras and all the meridian pathways and all that. And so at one point it was like I could see my body's skeleton. And I was like, that's only thing I could think was like, that's interesting. And next thing I know is like this big vibration, and I could feel my body becoming limp. And at that point, I could feel the people that were around me, the shaman and some of the helpers, gently laying my body down on the ground. All right. Next thing I know, I see these masters come to me, and I could recognize some of the masters and some of them I couldn't recognize. But it reminded me of the show, the cartoon, the Avatar, The Last Airbender, with the character Aang, Aang. I learned about this show when I was going out with a girlfriend of mine, and she has two wonderful sons who put me on to this show. And I said to myself, I remember they was watching the show one day, and I remember one show they had in the show, they was talking about the chakras and everything. And I was like, wow. I was like, children watch shows like this? These are the type of cartoons coming out? I was like, wow, these children are very advanced. I was like, it's very different than the cartoons I came up watching, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow, I was just blown away about that show. And but there was an episode when Aang, the character Aang, seen his past lives, and he had all these past avatars that were lined up in this like astral realm or whatever. And that's how it reminded me of that cartoon. That episode reminded me of my own experience with the Bufo when these masters came to me in the spirit realm. And again, I could recognize some of them. One of them was Imhotep. Another one was Imhotep was the mastermind, multi-genius of Egypt or Kemet. Also seen the African avatar Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. I seen the African avatar Simio Toko, and I seen some others that were like in the far distance, but it was going so fast. The experience was going so fast that I was not able to really figure out who they were. But they came to me. And then next thing I know, it felt as I was laying on the floor. And it's funny because I had this very expansive experience. It felt like an energy came out of me and started rippling through the planet. It was like, if you can imagine like someone throwing a rock or a little pebble or something in a pond and you just seeing that ripple effect. That's how it felt for me in regard of like this sensation or this feeling of this energy leaving my body and having this explosive type of experience of it rippling through the planet. You know, it felt like this thing was going, like it seemed like it came out of my body and it rippled on throughout where I was at, and it was just expanding and expanding and expanding, and it felt like it was expanding all the way off the planet, beyond the planet, throughout space, and at that point, it felt like I was one with everything. It was so deep. It was so, I'll never forget that. And it was interesting because this whole, what they call this whole ego death, or this experience of going beyond yourself, it was interesting because it felt like I was going beyond myself, but I was still aware of myself. To the point, this is funny, to the point that I was still aware of, still traveling, still expansive, merging with stuff, but still aware of my body, and I was still aware that snot was coming out of my nose from the rappy. So I was still had the capacity to go in my pocket, go look for my tissue, pull the tissue out, and blow my nose while I'm going through this expansive experience. So Brother Hank was laughing at me because he's like, I seen you, bro. He's like, you was doing so. He's like, I ain't never seen anyone that could daggone go on a Bufo experience, become one with God, and still be able to be mindful to go through his pocket and blow his nose. I just felt that was funny, man. And so when I started expanding out, man, the only thing I could some of these things you can't articulate in words. Just the human language just doesn't have the capacity to describe something in something of such nature. You know, I don't think they have human language that can describe the feeling, the experience of it. Some of the things I just can't explain. You know, it goes beyond words. That's why I think music is so important, because at least sound or music can sometimes convey certain feelings or certain things that words can't even describe. That's something I just feel. So, but it got to a point where the expansion with this oneness was so great that, good morning, yeah, that it got to a place where it let me know that everything was God. That was it. That I was God at that point. That even the most asshole fucking person that you can't stand is God. That Donald Trump was God. You know what I mean? They was even giving me like symbolic images at that point. Great Spirit. To show me, hey, good morning. To show me this lesson. To let me know that the only thing that exists here is God. And that this essence, this great spirit is playing itself within everything. This is the grand stage. If we could talk about like the greatest show on earth, or the greatest show in the multi-universe, if you want to even, I think even William Shakespeare was quoted about saying that, you know, that life is like, you know, is like a play, you know, and that this theater is, everyone is playing their part. That's how I felt about this mind expansive experience. And when it started going, and then it got to that very vital point where I knew I was God, and I knew that everything else was God, that this sound came out of me. And they came like, yo, it was off the hook. It was off the hook. And at that point, it let me know that, like, yo, everything's gonna be okay. Everything is like it reminded me of Kendrick Lamar's song, "Everything's Gonna Be All Right." You know what I mean? All right. That's how I felt. Like, at the end of the day, everything's gonna be fine, even under the most horrific conditions. It's okay, because we're dreaming right now. I mean, this is not even real, you know? So it was a profound revelation. And those that are in the know, even those in the secret societies and different things, they know this, you know? And they know that mind creates. That's one of the first laws of Tahuti, actually. Mentalism. That everything stems from the universal mind. That we create. We're creating constantly. And I learned also that God, or this essence, is constantly learning as well. With us. As us. That's the crazy thing about it. I was like, wow. I was like, God still learns? And that God is constantly seeking a new experience, learning through through experience. And we can learn through various things. A person can say, okay, as God, I want to incarnate to learn this lifetime what betrayal means, or what war means, or whatever means. But it's all great spirit. And that's what I learned through this. And that's when I learned, I was like, damn, it got to a point, especially in the experience, where I was like, I am enlightened. And now I understand what enlightenment is. And I understand I am God. Now, organized religion would slap me in the face right now. Organized religion would be saying, blasphemy, you know? How could you say that? You know, God provides for you. He's the one, or she's the one that gives you your food, or helps you get up every morning, and all those things. And yes, you're right. You're totally right. And you're totally wrong at the same time. Because we're looking at a finite situation here. Most people are looking from the perspective of a human experience. And they literally think this is them. They literally think that they are human, they are this age, that they are this race, that they're this gender, that they're this sexual preference, that they're this particular political, association, all this. And from that finite reality, of course, that's very limiting. And of course, you go through a particular system or program where things have their certain laws, right? But I want y'all to think about something for a moment. There's something called the Russian dolls, right? The Russian dolls. And I hope y'all seen these Russian dolls before. But these Russian dolls have many layers to them, right? If you take one layer off the doll, there's another one inside it. If you take another one, there's another one inside it. If you take off that particular doll out of that off of that outer layer, there's another one in it, until there's so many layers within you. Now, when you look at the ancient mystery schools of, for instance, ancient Egypt or Kemet, or even in the Far East with Hinduism and different other schools of thought, they would tell you how there's various different realities. And this all goes into different dimensions, different frequencies, different vibrations. Some people would say, yes, concrete, physicality, third dimension. I am here, you are there. You are the listener. You're separate from me. You are there, you're listening to this person. You're on the phone right here. You're seeing this person over here, separate. You know, I'm able to distinguish myself from that tree over there. Me and the tree are separate. That's third dimension. Now, when you start rising up in frequency, those things get a little blurry. Now, there's this thing of merging, you know, and when you study this information, you see things like the physical plane, the astral plane, you know, then they have something called like the mental plane, you know, and these are different realities. And you see, they say, some people say the Buddhic plane, you know, all these different higher and higher dimensions. All right. Now, when you start to tap into these different dimensions, you see the quality of reality starts to change. Things become more refined. When you go to these different realities, there's different laws. There's different ways to interact. You know, when you start to go to more of the mental plane, for instance, you don't even have a physical body. You know, there's certain realms where you're a being of light. There's certain realms where you even go beyond like physicality, you know? So, and this is all dealing with vibration, with frequency. That's why I felt it was interesting when I smoked the Bufo. The main thing I really, really remember and stuck out for me was the vibration. The frequency started to change. The frequency started to go faster. Good morning, y'all. Namaste. Yes. The frequency started to go faster. Things started to speed up. Like, you know, you're entering into another reality. You're entering into another dimensional reality. What I found also interesting in my experience was that channeling, you know, there was these two guys that drove me to Manhattan, to Chinatown, as I had to get back to catch my bus to go back to Boston. So they're giving me a ride home, you know, well, at least a ride to Chinatown, and they start asking me about my experience, and they were like, Dooley, do you remember? I was like, do you remember so and so? Yeah, I'd be like, yep. It's like, you remembered all that? Yep. And he said, do you remember when you was chanting with the shaman? I said, yes, I remember. And he's like, did you study this stuff before? And I was like, no, I haven't. Not at least in this lifetime, because I have seen some of my past lives. And if you're into this stuff, even if you're listening to this right now, there's a big chance, not chance, is actually a big it's most likely that you've picked up from your last lifetime of the interest that you was doing in your last lifetime. You're just picking up where you left off. Okay? So I've seen certain lifetimes where I've been doing this healing work for many lifetimes. Different bodies, even different daggone so-called races, you know, so-called Native American man in one lifetime seeing me doing ceremony. Another lifetime, I see myself as this Asian man teaching martial arts and stuff. So I see like, okay, this is this soul keeps continuing coming back, you know, and doing the same type of stuff. So we continue with this work, and yes, maybe not during this lifetime. Currently, I studied this particular chant or whatever, but I tapped in. And when I was tapping in, I didn't need to study anything. You know, when you're tapped in, you already know. You know, some people call it Akashic records. You know, some people say tapping into your DNA. You know, plugging into the universal mind. You know, so when you're plugged in, you're plugged in. You know, and because I was plugged in at that time, I didn't have to study anything. I already knew it, you know? So, yeah, I was right there, knew every word that the shaman was saying, and never studied it. But what's interesting is that when I first came to the ceremony and when he was chanting these things, I said to myself, all this stuff that he's chanting sounds so familiar. The frequency of the songs and everything. I was like, this is so familiar to me. And I do this all the time. I'm usually around my apartment chanting. And for a long time, I would say a lot of the stuff that would come out of me, I would think it would be gibberish. I'm like, oh, I'm speaking some gibberish. But I'm starting to know and learn that, no, I'm not speaking gibberish. A lot of this stuff is real ancient languages and downloads that I'm having and I have to trust in the process. Trust in the process that I know what's going on with that, So this is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing. It wasn't until I really spoke to one friend of mine and I was telling him, yeah, I do this chanting thing, man. And sometimes I don't know where it's coming from or I don't know what it means. And I remember he asked me if I can be able to share the chants with him. So I told him I would try. I was like, this is something I don't know, or this is something I don't write down or whatever. It's just something that comes through me at the moment. And so I started centering myself and I started doing my chanting. And I remember my friend he said, Dooley, do you know what you're saying? I was like, no, He says that you're chanting an ancient Mayan language right now. He said some of the words that you used in your chant I was familiar with because my shaman taught me this particular song. So again, it blows my mind that we know these things. These things are inside of us. It's encoded within our DNA. You know what I mean? It's right there for us. We just got to tap in and plug in. But I'm going to leave off with the Bufo because I got to get back. I got up real early. I know my children are going to be waking up soon. And I got to finish my workout. But the Bufo, essentially that was kind of my experience there. Of course, there was more details of other things, but there was a lot of letting go, a lot of old programming that I let go. Also, it allowed me to understand the nature of duality, so-called good and bad. These are perspectives. Of course, in third dimension, we know we live by Ma'at. Ma'at is the holy laws of righteousness within Kemet or Egypt. That for the mystery schools, that's how we started off. We started off with the laws of Ma'at, learning just how to live to be a decent person before you start to climb your spiritual ladder of consciousness or Jacob's ladder. You know what I mean? You first have to learn how to conduct yourself on a level of morality before you start to learn the power that's within you. Because if you don't, you just abuse that shit. It's like a reference I give a lot of people in some of my classes and some of my Reiki classes and other classes. Hey, good morning to you. Peace. There's one reference I give to people all the time, and it's in the book, The Autobiography of the Yogi by Yogananda. And in that book, it's an excellent book, and that book was very groundbreaking for a lot of people here in the United States to be open to the mystical experiences of yoga and stuff. But Yogananda talks about this one guy who tapped into his power, into his what the Hindus would call your siddhis, Siddhi. And siddhis is something that we all can actually tap into, with practice, with meditation. Good friend of mine I tell all the time, straight from Boston. She had a levitation experience while she was running, and that she learned that gift actually runs in her family. Her mother had the same experience in her early 20s. Her sister actually almost got hit by a car and levitated over the car and had witnesses to see it. Her brother had the same experience. He was running. He got that, what you call that runner's high, closed his eyes for a second. Next thing you know, he feels a big old branch hit him in the head and he's in the tree, high in the tree. Freaked out, didn't know how he got up there. So cities are real, and the age that we're coming into, you're going to see and hear more and more about people having their so-called supernatural abilities coming out more and more. You know, you're going to hear more of that. That's why it's not a coincidence. The universe speaks in signs and symbols. It's not a coincidence that the major movies that everyone wants to see out right now are about superheroes, you know? And it's not just that us late 70s and 80s kids grew up with Spider-Man and Superman and all that, and we want to see our superheroes on the big screen. It's not just about that. It's that we're tapping into our subconscious, and we know this big shift is happening. So we're going to see more people with their powers coming out. You know, look up the sister, the Indian sister, young sister that could see blindfolded. You know, she could see with her eyes closed. They put all these blindfolds on her and she could read, see in the dark and all that. These cities, these powers are coming out more and more. You know, had a good friend of mine that had a great telekinesis experience. She moves her phone with her mind, you know, across the table. So you're seeing more and more of these things happening, and it's going to be more commonplace. You know, when we talk about the age of the golden age and on these different yugas within the Hindu context, you understand that in the golden age, even in silver age and all this stuff, this was very commonplace. You know, to have these so-called abilities. You know what I mean? It's a great book. I reference people all the time. It's called Faces in the Smoke. I forgot the author's name, but he's a filmmaker as well. And in the book, it talks about him going around the world, traveling, interviewing all these great healers around the world. It's a great book. And one chapter in the book that really, really held my attention and really blew my mind was the chapter that he had on Haiti. You know what I mean? That book really highlighted some things for me. And what was interesting in that book, he talked about the secret society of flying men in Haiti. You know what I mean? Very interesting book. So you have people that know these things, that develop these things. You might not hear about them because, like even in the mystery schools, they would take you step by step to understanding your true potential, your divinity. And this information would not just be in the hands of just anyone, because if you're not mature enough, you will abuse it. That's where the concept of the supervillain comes from. All right, and you could see that, like I was saying, in the book, The Autobiography of the Yogi, where the brother developed a particular city where this guy was robbing the jewelry stores. You know, he was going in there, daggone. This guy had the ability to touch something, put his psychic imprint on it, right? Have it dematerialize and rematerialize on his person. All right. So he would go into these jewelry stores. It's like, hey, you know, can I see this necklace? Put it on, put his psychic imprint on it. And then they'll take it off, and, you know, give it back to the jeweler and be like, hey, you know what? You know, I don't really want this. It's fine. Oh, can I take a look at that ring? Oh, matter of fact, no, it doesn't look so good on me. You can take it back. You know, after he touches so many things, then he would leave the store, the jewelry store, walk up the street or whatever. And then a couple of minutes, all the things that he touched in the jewelry store would dematerialize and rematerialize on himself. So the Indian police, the Bombay police, they was in an uproar. They was like, we have a master thief at hand, and there's no evidence. Things are just disappearing. I don't know what's going on. You know, word got on the street that the guy that was doing this, it got to his master. It got to his master. And his master disguised himself as a beggar and came to him and said to his disciple, his student, said, hey, I heard that you're a great healer. Can you help me? Da 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 da. The only thing is I have this family emblem or whatever that was passed through generations in my family. The guy, the student, didn't hear anything the guy said. Only thing he heard was the thing passed on in their family. He's like, oh, you know what? Let me see that. He touched it. And he's like, matter of fact, I don't have time for you today. I'm busy, whatever. And he walks off. And of course, he touched the thing so he can have it disappear out his master, who was in disguise, hand, and have it come to him. It disappears out his master's hand and gets on him, and his master stops him in his tracks and says, I didn't want to think it was true, but now I know it's true. You dirty scoundrel. You use these teachings. You use the things I taught you to only for your own selfish, greedy means, So that master took that city from him. And his disciple, his student, felt so ashamed, felt so bad that he said, I'm going to go to the high mountains for the rest of my life and repent for my evil ways. So this was the purpose of the ancient mystery schools, were to take an individual from their animal self to their God self. And there would be steps that you would go to get there. And each step was to peel back all the false layers about yourself until you get like that Russian doll, get to the root of who you really are, which is God, the true nature of reality. Now, when you think of the ancient mystics such as Yahshua or Jesus, and now there might be some people out there might look at two ways of looking at Jesus or Yahshua. They might see that as him being a symbol, right, for a state of consciousness, for what some people would call the the karas energy, or the Christ consciousness, which is a title, all right? And this is what the Gnostics were trying to tell people in the earliest form of Christianity. They were trying to tell people this is not a particular person. This is a state of mind. This is a title, a form of consciousness that anyone can be able to attain. And some people also embrace the physical revolutionary person called Yahshua, who actually attained that state of mind. And he was trying, and even in their scriptures, they were trying to tell their disciples, their future Christians, that, hey, don't put me on a pedestal, guys. You're going to do greater things than me. The kingdom of God is within. So these scriptures were trying to tell you all the time that you are divine, that you are God, but they misunderstand their own scripture. And when they see things like that, they override that real quick. They bypass that real quick, because everyone wants to play the victim role. Everyone wants to look like they are disempowered, that they're this tiny little human being, when that is not who you are. You are much more than that. Okay? So this is what the Bufo taught me. It taught me even going beyond the duality. When you go beyond the third dimension, there's realms of existence. When you especially go into the oneness, that goes beyond the concept of what we consider good and evil. There's duality here for a reason, because this is set up in such a way for these lessons for your soul to happen, to have these lessons. They need a level of polarity to have the perfect ingredients, the perfect environment for you to have your realizations. Like my mom, I asked my mom a long time ago, what's the purpose of evil, Mom? You say, well, son, you can't understand what wholesome goodness is, compassion, love, all these beautiful attributes. You will never understand that if you don't have the polar opposite, son. You will not have the wisdom to understand what beauty is if you didn't understand what ugliness is, or what evilness is. You know, I remember there's a rapper, his name, old school rapper, legend, KRS-One, Blastmaster KRS-One, the teacher. I remember it was one of his rhymes, he talked about interconnectedness. And I'll never forget that because he did it so brilliantly through his poetry. You know, he did it so brilliantly, you know, and what he was showing how everything is interconnected. You know, he was showing how the prophet could not be born unless the prophet had the hustler over there or the gangster over there. He had to have a measuring stick to understand. He had to have a mirroring effect to know that, that evil asshole over there, I don't want to be like him. You know, but he had to have a measuring stick to understand what's not become, so he could become something else. You know, the way KRS explained it through that rhyme was brilliant. It made a lot of sense. But this is the ground, this is the training ground for you to have these lessons, for everyone to play these different parts in life. One lifetime you might be the angel. Another lifetime you might play the role of a demon. You've been all these things. You know? Because some people get self-righteous. And that's a big downfall for some people. You know, they get knowledge of self, or they say I'm a light worker, and, you know, and look down on other people. I can't believe this person's over here is not vegetarian. Oh, look at that person over there. He smokes cigarettes. He's not conscious. Everything is conscious. Even the most ignorant shit. It's there to play a role for a reason. When you bypass the illusion of third dimension or duality, you'll understand that better. Because it's all God. You best understand that. There's a movie called Jacob's Ladder. Brilliant movie. I think that movie came out probably in the 80s or something, or in early 90s. I'm not sure. But the movie has many layers to it. But it's talking a lot. It's talking about the Vietnam War. It's talking about experimentations within the army and all these different things. It's also talking about like references to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where they talk about the Bardo period, or the after death period. And there's symbolic references in the movie to show that. But this individual doesn't know that he's dead, which is very common when people have very violent deaths or very spontaneous deaths. This happens because the astral realm, other realms, especially the astral realms, looks very identical to the third dimensional physical realm. All right. So some people might not know they're dead, and they're in this level of limbo or whatever. And that's why we had rituals for the dead. That's why we were able to do certain rituals to be able to allow people to know, okay, you have passed on. Now you're in another dimension. You can go now. You know, I'll never forget. You know, in the early 2000s, I was studying with a lot of Tibetan Buddhists, and I met a lot of different teachers. One teacher that initiated me, his name is Garchen Rinpoche. Deep out there. And he was this documentary. I think it was called The Himalayan Masters, or I think it was called The Yogis of Tibet, if I'm not mistaken. And in that movie, that documentary, Garchen Rinpoche shows an ancient technique called Tumo, which they call the inner heat practice. And they talk about in this film how these Tibetan yogis, these Himalayan masters, would never, ever expose these teachings outside the temple, outside the initiates. But because of the age we're in, the high technology, all kinds of things that's happening on this planet, this is the time where the masters leave their caves in their ashrams and temples and stuff. And this is the time for them to pass on the knowledge because of the age we're living in. You know, the age of AI and transhumanism and GMOs and chemtrails and all this other stuff. So they don't want the teachings to be lost. So they're going public with certain teachings that were never to be taught in public. You know, I'll never forget when Gachin Rinpoche was there. I was visiting Boston one day, and he had an interpreter. Talk to me about what he called the fast runner technique. I'll never forget this day. He was like, the interpreter was somebody that Gachin Rinpoche was saying to him to tell me that, yes, they put these special mantras that they write, these words of power on their feet, and they're able to run through the mountains. Like, if those who ever seen Star Wars and how the Jedi move real quick, they would zoop, zoop, you know, that's how they would move. These masters would move, jumping over big mountains and all that, leaping. Like, I don't know, y'all seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that movie? When you see them going through the trees, look like they flying through the trees and stuff. That's what they do. That's what they do. This is another city. This is another power that we have. You know, there's all these stuff is encoded in our DNA. It's just waiting to come out. That's why when we talk about that junk DNA or that, you know, it's nothing junk. You know, there's nothing junk in us. You know what I mean? Everything has its purpose, you know. But all this is encoded in our DNA, my friends. It's waiting to come out. But I'll never forget he told me that, you know, the fast runner technique, you know. They probably call it something else in Tibetan, but he explained it to me as fast runner technique, you know. But back to that movie, Jacob's Ladder. You know, in the movie, he has one friend in there who's a chiropractor. And he always, in this astral realm, he's always connecting with his friend, the chiropractor, as a way of being able to soothe himself from what he's going through. Because he has all these demons, faceless looking beings running after him and stuff. And the chiropractor gives him some good wisdom advice. He says, the beings that the demons that you're running from, he says the demons are nothing but angels in disguise. And I'll never forget that quote. You know, I'll never forget it in that movie. And it's so true, because when you look at it, even Chinrizi, for instance, I was chanting Chinrizi's mantra earlier, Om Mani Padme Hum, and that's the Bodhisattva dealing with wisdom and compassion. All right, but Chinrizi has a different side to him, a flip side to him called Malakala. Malakala is a wrathful deity. You know, it's like, it looks like a demon. You know, that's the other ferocious side to Chinrizi. It's two sides to the coin. The same thing if you want to look into Egyptian or Kemetic mysteries, look at Hathor or Hetaru. Hathor is the goddess of love, sensuality and stuff. But what happens to Hathor on the flip side? On the flip side, she becomes Sekhmet. You know, Hathor becomes that heifer. And she come out, and you already know the story of Sekhmet. She's ferocious. She was fighting for Ra. You know, and they had to, from the mythological story, they had to, you know, she liked to drink blood. She would have a thirst for the blood. So they would put they put all this wine out to make it look like the blood to fool her. So she would go into a deep somber sleep, and she turned back into the nicey Hetaru or Hathor again. You know, they always have these different sides, like Kali. ferocious, you know. And I had an old teacher that used to tell me, you don't send a plumber, you don't send a ballerina to do a plumber's job. I'll never forget when one of my teachers told me that. So even in the Bardo, even in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's certain beings that come to you, which is your own consciousness, that come to you for to deal with certain mindsets, you know. So if you have a killer or some ignorant ass motherfucker, you know, in a Bardo, and that's going through the Bardo or going through the spirit world, and he's died, the type of mindset that he has, he's not going to respect a nicey angel type of being. His consciousness might need the being that's wrathful type of raw energy, you know. So I felt that was interesting in that movie with the Jacob's Ladder with that, you know. And that's how I look at third dimension. That's how I look at duality. You know, the demon is nothing but the angel in disguise. You know what I mean? Sometimes we need certain lessons, and sometimes our lessons can be very harsh. It could be so harsh to the point that it could mean genocide. So harsh that it could mean that a whole damn planet could blow up. Like I was even saying earlier, when I experienced galactic history on a very up and close scale. You know, seeing ancient memories of the ancient wars in space. You know, seeing memories of us I remember I seen one ancient memories in this big spaceship. You know, all of us in a big circle sitting together. It was deep. And I'm asking myself, where are these memories coming from? You know? So there's a lot of things that karmically that people have to clear, you know? I never even forgot, like, it was a newspaper, I think it was the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe, so many years ago, where people, it's a big park in Boston called the Boston Commons. They used to have public lynchings down there of Native American and African people. Late night, there was an article because people were seeing apparitions or ghostly-like figures of African and Native American people walking around late at night there. Because, again, we were people that did ritual. If a person has a violent death, again, sometimes they're caught in limbo. They don't know that they're even dead. So some of these souls, some of these spirits are still walking around. And we got to do ritual to be able to make amends for the atrocities and the negative things that us sentient beings have done to each other. Because if we don't, hello, good morning. If we don't, guess what? It continues. These lessons will continue and continue until we get it, you know? But these are the lessons we learn when it comes to these lower dimensional realities. When you go to the upper dimensional realities, until you start coming to the oneness, you understand there is no evil. There is no goodness. It is what it is. You know what I mean? That's why when I went on one of these very deep shaman experiences with the assistance of the psilocybin, and I went on this very deep journey, and I got to this place of going beyond the duality. It was powerful to me because at that place, I thought to myself, damn, I've done gone damn nutty. I done gone fucking crazy. They need to put me in the damn mental institution right now. But then I said to myself, if this is crazy, then I'm okay with it. Because I got to a point where I was merging so much with existence that Great Spirit showed me the most beautifulest thing. And then Great Spirit showed me also the most horrific thing, like war and all kinds of stuff. And I was laughing at all of it because I realized it was one big grand show. That was one big grand show. That it was an illusion. But we was having this big show, having this big dream, because this is what we're having. We're learning from this big show. And we're all playing different parts. You know, it was deep. But that was my Bufo thing, and I'm gonna briefly talk about. So Bufo is the medicine for enlightenment. Let's just get that clear. Bufo or toad medicine is the medicine for enlightenment. If it will give you a brief glimpse of the true nature of reality. It will give you a brief glimpse of what they call in India, from their school of thought, what they call samadhi, or what they call in the Buddhist context, emptiness, pure emptiness. You know, emptiness is form, and form is emptiness. Gatte pirasam gatte bodhisoha. I am not my eyes, I'm not my ear, I am not my nose, I am not my arm, I am not my, you know what I mean? We go beyond illusion. That's what Bufo is. Now, Mama Ayahuasca, and Bufo is like, what, 10 times stronger than ayahuasca? It's stronger than regular DMT. This is 5-MeO DMT that we're talking about. And like I said, for all the naysayers out there, you don't need anything outside yourself to find yourself. Yes, you don't. But also, we're living in this age of Kali, the Iron Age. We're living in an age of discord, strife, confusion, all that. We're living in a time of AI, where AI is evolving so-called faster than human beings. I know y'all seen that daggone AI robot that was considered to get citizenship in Saudi Arabia. This is crazy where we're going right now. And we did it before. That's the crazy thing about it. We keep on going through the same cycle. We've done it in Atlantis, Lemuria, all that. We've did this before. So the thing is this, my friends. The time that we live in, this is not the time to be sitting down in the temple for years or sitting at the feet of a master for years. We don't have that luxury anymore. Everything is fast paced. Things are moving fast. And, a lot of us doing the 9-to-5 jobs, all this. So the teaching plants and the fungi is a perfect natural technology. Peace. How you doing? It's a peace. It's a natural technology for the age that we're in right now. It allows you to be able to have that instant download, and like I said before, the Bufo gives you a glimpse of your true nature, and okay, yes, and it might be 30 or 40 minutes and you might get that glimpse, but the main thing is that you had a glimpse of it, and you can be able to now know that it exists. Now you had an experience. Now it's time for you, when you're not doing the teaching plants and fungi, to do the groundwork, to do your meditation every day. Take it further, go deeper within it. It's there to assist you. You know what I mean? To not to be some type of codependency. Because if that was the case, because, everyone gets dogmatic. Even the people in the psychedelic communities and stuff. This is not a magic pill. If it was a magic pill, we'll all be enlightened by now. I encounter people that go to ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff all the time. And guess what? They're still fucking assholes. Because they did not know how to integrate what they learn from their experience. And they don't know how to integrate that back into their everyday life. All right? That's what it's about. It's about integration. Okay? So Bufo is the medicine of the Magi. It's the medicine of the initiates. It's very serious medicine. Ayahuasca, Mama Ayahuasca, she's just a beautiful, beautiful medicine as well. She's not as intense, but she still is intense. And the last ayahuasca experience we had, that I went to this past weekend was beautiful. It was very beautiful. It's beautiful every time. No. Peace. How you doing? It's beautiful every time I'm able to do this healing work. You know what I mean? And what happened this time for me, which was very interesting, was telepathy. Telepathy. I was so telepathic that night. It was amazing. And we already know, especially with the Star Nation, when we deal with a lot of, intergalactic history, when you deal with a lot of so-called extraterrestrial information, you understand a lot of very advanced civilizations, a lot of star nations out there, they are telepathic. They don't use this mouth, blah, 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 blah. They don't use this. They use mind-to-mind communication. I'll never forget one of my good friends, Chemo. He's great at astral projection. He always reads from his journal on his many excursions. And I'll never forget when he went to one particular constellation somewhere. He doesn't know where he was at the moment, but he went to a planet where it was all black people on this planet. Very dark melanated people. And they all dressed in white. And they all seemed like he said they all had their head covered with this type of white cloth or what have you. He says there was a very high technology civilization, because what he was amazed at was that they didn't use electricity on that planet. They used a different form of light source, and he couldn't figure out where the light was coming from. He was in his astral body walking around on his planet, and he was looking around. He's like, what kind of light source? He's like, the room I'm in here is lit up, but I don't see any light bulb. I don't see any type of light source, but it's lit up. And he didn't understand how they did that. Very technical. There was a very technical planet over there. But also they were telepathic. Everyone on that planet was telepathic. They didn't speak to each other with their mouth. They spoke mind to mind. And he said they were so advanced on that planet that they could see his astral body. He would go to other planets or go to even on the planet here. And when he would leave his astral body, a lot of times it would be like he's a ghost. He'll travel maybe to Africa, India, wherever he would want to with his astral body. And he'll be in real time and space. And he'll see people walking, for instance, in Bombay or wherever. And people will be walking right through him like a ghost. They would not be able to detect his astral body. But on this planet, they all seen him. And they wasn't fazed by him for whatever reason. They was like, okay, got this guy here on our planet business. All right, whatever. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. It was very interesting. So you have a lot of people that communicate telepathically. All right. I, at the ceremony myself, was very open telepathically. I was able to read other people's thoughts. And I wasn't doing it purposely. It was just like I was so open, I was able to see people's stuff. It was one person that was there. He was going through some stuff. And he knew that I could see him. He knew I could see his inner thoughts. And he became very embarrassed by it. And later on during the ceremony, when he was dancing, I went up to him and I just patted him on the back. Just rubbed him on his back to let him know everything is okay. And I'm not here to judge you. That's not my place. You're going through your own experiences, just like anyone else. But it was deep. And then there was moments where my mind merged with other people's minds. So there was moments in my telepathic experiences where I was able to help assist other people during their ceremony, and was able to give like a level of positive affirmations to them. So it was profound. Also during that experience, I was channeling certain deities, if you want to call them that, or certain archetypical energies. And I was dancing, and then I went into a trance. And when I was dancing, I did not have control over my body at that point. I was in a total trance, and I was doing these very ancient African dances. At one point, it seemed like I was channeling this being from more of the Ifa or Yoruba tradition called Ishu. He is what you would call the one who's at the crossroads, all right? Ishu is some people would consider him more trickster energy, but that was not it wouldn't be out of pocket, or it wouldn't surprise me if that was the deity that was going through me at that time, because people that know me know that there's a lot of trickster energy that can come from me sometimes. Coyote energy, Burr Rabbit, all that. I'm a very jokester sometimes, you know. And the joke, like even in the tarot, the fool in the tarot, that's like the number 0. You know, that's like infinity. That's like, again, they know, the fool knows this is an illusion. You know, it's not gonna take this shit serious because he knows this shit is a matrix. The fool's not gonna come off with an air, I'm holier than thou. I have eaten my tofu. I can do a downward dog better than you. You know, the fool's like all y'all motherfuckers are crazy. And if this cuts off, on me, I'm just gonna say peace to y'all because I'm running out of juice. But the fool, he carries, if you look at the imagery of the fool, he carries very light. He just has a little knapsack with a little thing on his shoulder, and he's about to fall off the cliff because he travels light and he's oblivious to the so-called danger because he respects the universe. She respects the universe. He understands that there is no danger. He understands that he's beyond danger. So it's very interesting. But the issue came to me also with Voodoo. It would be considered, that energy would be considered Baron Samadhi. And his image came, I can't really see on here because this thing keeps on going in and out. All I could say is that the room transformed. I seen myself as the Baron, and the room turned into a graveyard. It was powerful, you know. And I guess I'll talk about that more later because this thing's about to end. Also, during that ceremony, the spirit of the combo came to me, and the frog expanded throughout the whole room. It was deep. It was deep. But I'm about to finish this and say peace. Okay, I can't turn this thing off. I'm trying to figure this thing out. Finish.